Hey everybody, and welcome to episode number 3 of creating custom Pokemon based on my nephew's drawings. So before I get started here, I just wanted to mention something. I've been doing a lot of thinking about the name of this series. Creating custom Pokemon based on my nephew's drawings, it doesn't have that great of a ring to it, in my opinion. So, for those of you that don't know, my nephew's name is Kobe. And to me, that sounds a bit, like Pokey, the first half of Pokemon. You may be able to assume where I'm going with this. You see, I was considering calling this series Khobemon. Khobemon? Maybe? But I wasn't sure if it was too cheesy. I don't know. So I haven't really committed to it. But anyway, let me know in the comments if you think that, if you like that name, or, if you have a better suggestion. In the meantime, I'll just leave things how they are. So, today is a very special episode because we will be completing the evolution family of Tweety, the Pokemon from the very first episode of this series. If you haven't already, I recommend watching the previous videos so that you get caught up. And so that you'll know, what's going on in this video. Alright, so today's Pokemon is the final evolution of a double evolution family. Since Tweety evolves twice, it's part of a double evolution family, or it means it has 2 evolved forms. Usually, Pokemon that hold this position are very mature and powerful. And this is usually because, to me, I kind of consider them the fully grown adult version of the Pokemon. And sometimes this comes with changes. The changes can be varied, but in our case, we've gone from a normal flying type, and then we stayed a normal flying type, and now changing to a flying and fighting type. There's also one other change to take note of. I'm not sure if you noticed. It's actually quite subtle. Something really small, Just another set of arms. That's all. Just another set of arms. This is a pretty bold move. Like, the evolution chain here is pretty good, and it fits in really well, with how actual Pokemon evolution chains work. So, kudos to Kobe. So, usually, the first 2 forms of a Pokemon are relatively similar. And then, the final one can be, similar as well. But, in a lot of cases, the final one just changes the game. I mean, look at this. Like, growing arms and legs, attaching other parts, becoming multiples of themselves. And the real kicker to me, I don't know if this bothers anybody else, but becoming anthropomorphic. Like, sometimes the design just flies off the handle. Like, an attribute that wasn't even hinted at in the slightest is now here. And you can't argue with it. You may have wanted a cute little kitten, and once it got a little bit stronger, it was a cat. But then, now, you've got this. Congratulations? I'm sorry? So in our case, despite these new developments, the Pokemon is still relatively similar to its previous forms. The wings, the colors, I really like the direction he took this one. Also, just a side note, I think there are only a handful of, actual flying, fighting type Pokemon in the games and the cards. So, this is a pretty unique type. So when I first started drawing, initially I tried to learn, from my previous attempts at designing Pokemon. And so I started off directly referencing Kobe's drawings. It was a good idea. His drawing, to me, the first impression I get is that it looks kind of like a bird that ate a beach ball. So naturally, I started off with this round shape. Then I added wings to it and started trying to place those 4 legs or 4 arms. I'm not really sure what they're called for birds. Chickens, they call them chicken legs, but if it had If I had four, would it be a four-legged chicken? I'm gonna just say yes. My designs came out looking super weird, at least to me, which isn't necessarily a bad thing for Pokemon though. There's some weird looking ones. They just weren't good designs in my opinion. One of the biggest issues I had is that it deviated from the previous designs so drastically. Like in my case, because I've already established this more reptilian type feel to these Pokemon, to jump straight into a giant bird ball would have been a little bit drastic. And I'm not a big fan of flipping the script like that. So since I was working on this evolution chain all at once, I just kept referencing my previous drawings to make sure that the ideas were carrying over, at least a little bit. But I had to find a balance, between my drawings and Kobe's. When looking at these four legs, I tried a couple of different routes. One idea had four symmetrical legs. This one has the character on all fours, kind of like a dog, maybe a griffin. And this one has the Pokemon standing on two legs, like a human. I tried the anthropomorphic route. I'm still really not a fan. Sometimes it looks pretty cool, but overall, I don't know. Either way, none of these felt quite right, So I decided to move away from these and spend more time referencing Tweetzo, the previous evolution. Since Tweetzo ended up kind of looking like a raptor, I thought it would be interesting to play on this, dinosaur aesthetic. So from here, I took some time looking at, actual dinosaurs. Mainly ones that were bigger than raptors. As you may have guessed, I landed somewhere around T-Rexes. So I took some time getting more familiar with, the basic forms of a T-Rex. But I didn't want to just draw a T-Rex and then give it some wings, I wanted to draw a T-Rex Pokemon. So once I got the basics, I started warping and skewing it a bit and made the features a bit more exaggerated, an attempt to give it that Pokemon flavor. One issue I faced while doing this though is the typing. Flying and fighting. T-Rexes, from what I understand, they couldn't fly. As far as research and history and archaeologists are concerned. But neither can raptors, and that design worked out fine. So this isn't that big of a barrier. The fighting aspect, though, was a bit of a challenge. This isn't the standard, but fighting type Pokemon are usually known for using their hands and feet in battles. Throwing punches and kicks. Sometimes they do, body slams and things like that, but overall it's about punches and kicks. Now, T-Rexes, they're known for having strong feet and an amazing tail, which can be used for combat, but they don't have the best reputation for arms. And I thought this would be a pretty interesting, place to kind of devote a little bit of attention. So I actually wanted to kind of play on this idea of, the typically short-armed T-Rex by breaking the mold. And so I decided to beef up the arms a little bit. My goal was to create a T-Rex that would punch you.
Who's that Pokemon?
So after a couple of iterations, I decided on a design and brought it into Photoshop. I carried over a good bit of the details from Tweety and Tweetzo, but I also got rid of a couple of them. For starters, this final evolution has completely grown out of the beak and now has sharp defensive spikes on its body. These were hinted at a little bit in Tweetzo's design. Once a Pokemon is fully evolved, it's pretty much a battle machine in peak condition. It's learned enough from its previous battles to really be able to handle itself well and use its strengths to the greatest of its ability. My original sketch had a bit more detail than Pokemon are typically known for, so I used this opportunity to simplify the design. Being in Photoshop, it's easy to kind of try some things out as well as throw some other things away. When I moved on to getting some colors down, once again I sampled colors from the original drawing, and then I was also able to sample colors from the previous forms. I knew that I for sure wanted the palette of this Pokemon to be darker and more serious overall. So here's Tweetsie, the flying fighting type Pokemon, and the final evolution of this chain. For this card, I decided to take a different approach on how I designed the background. I looked at a couple of fully evolved Pokemon cards, and the backgrounds are typically more abstract. You know, they have like explosions going on. Some of them look like they're in space. I also wanted to try to make this card holographic when I print it out. I'm not sure if this will be possible, but, you know, we'll see when the time comes. I'm looking forward to trying nonetheless. So that takes care of the design of the Pokemon and the card. Now this is the part where I need your help. Tweetsie's Pokemon card needs an HP and some battle moves. If you have any suggestions, put them in the comments. And the selected comment will be featured in an upcoming video along with the completed card. Now, let's see if Tweetsie meets the challenge criteria. Number 1, a strong silhouette. I think Tweetsie's silhouette is pretty good. In the future, I would like to try more dynamic poses with the Pokemon, but I think this silhouette is pretty easy to read. That head is, you know, very much like a T-Rex. It's got the horns, but also the wing, it kind of breaks away from the body enough to where you can tell, you know, it's a flying T-Rex. Number 2, clear defining feature. So I actually tried to go for 2 defining features in this one. The main one, of course, you know, being the head crest that I carried over from the last few designs. But I also wanted to bring attention to the arms, because this is now a fighting type Pokemon. Not always is a Pokemon's type, you know, immediately noticeable from the way it looks, but I wanted to try to push it a little bit more. I hinted actually to this change coming a bit in the previous design with Tweetzo's arms, but I intended it for it to be a bit more subtle because he wasn't a fighting type back then. Number 3, a maximum of 3 colors. In my opinion, the colors were pretty simple to maintain across all 3 of these Pokemon. Blue is still the dominant color of this design, but it's just a bit darker on this last one. And number 4, the bonus. Is it simple enough that a child could draw it? If you have time, if you don't mind, take a moment, try to draw Tweetsie for yourself. Let me know in the comments if you felt the design is simple enough, you know, that you can get the basic ideas out there or a child could draw it. Or if there are some unexpected challenges or maybe things that are a bit too complicated. Alright, so that about wraps things up for this one. If you like the final design, give this video a like. If it turned out how you expected, give it a like for that too. And also let me know in the comments, you know, if you didn't like it. Or anything else about, you know, the format of this video, of these videos, the name of the series. Or if you just want to say hi. If you'd like to share your own designs of Pokemon you've created, or if you took a shot at drawing this Pokemon or one of the other ones, post it on Instagram with the hashtag 3YamsPokemon. I would love to see what you come up with. The next video will actually be a recap of my experience creating these Pokemon, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. I'll be talking about what I learned while creating these, as well as a couple of changes that I'll make to my design process when working on the next 17 or so. Alright, until then, I'll see you next time.